roadside motel for the night. Everything was normal. The room, the bed, the lights, until he blinked and suddenly it was an hour later. His phone had 23 missed calls. His car was moved, his clothes were soaked, but he couldn't remember anything. Security footage showed him screaming in the hallway, naked, bleeding, but he never left the room. And when he found the message carved behind the mirror, "You came back. Don't leave again," he realized the motel wasn't just a place to rest, it was a trap, and he'd been there before. Back in 2017, Mika was living in a rundown brick apartment building in Trenton, New Jersey, the kind of place where hallway lights buzz and the doors all had chipped paint and broken locks. Mika shared the place with her roommate Rika, who worked late-night security at a warehouse just outside town. Most nights, Mika was alone. It was a Thursday in February when things started to get weird. Mika had just gotten home later than usual. As she climbed the stairs to her floor, she was suddenly hit with a strange smell: burnt rubber mixed with citrus cleaner. That smell pulled something deep from her memory, but it wasn't a real memory. It felt like someone else's. She reached her hallway, and then it hit her hard: déjà vu. But not like the normal kind. This was strong, full body, like she was living the exact moment over again. She stood frozen, about 5 feet from her apartment door. And then, she knew exactly what would happen next. The light above her would flicker twice. A neighbor downstairs would yell something muffled and then laugh. At the far end of the hallway, something heavy would fall with a dull thud, and it all happened exactly in that order. Mika didn't feel scared, not yet, just confused. Had she dreamed this before? Was her brain playing tricks? The next night, it happened again. She was eating leftover Chinese food, watching an old sitcom, and suddenly, she knew what line was coming next. Even the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand hit at the exact second she expected. Over the next 5 days, it kept happening. More moments, more memories that hadn't happened yet. Mika began writing them down. She tested herself, predicting things before they happened. Every time, she was right. She could tell exactly when Rika would text. She knew when the neighbor's dog would bark. These weren't memories. They were like future echoes, reminders of things that hadn't happened yet. That's when the dreams began. In the dream, Mika was lying in bed. Her door opened. Rika walked in, pale and sweating. She said, "There's someone in the building." Her voice sounded flat, like a recording. Mika asked who, but Rika just stared, saying nothing more. And then the dream played again the next night, and the next. Until the final night, when it wasn't a dream at all. At exactly 3:12 a.m., Mika's door opened. Rika stood there, dripping sweat, and said the exact same words, "There's someone in the building." Mika stared at Rika, her skin crawling. She had seen this before in her dreams. Every detail matched. The sweat on Rika's forehead, the exact time, the way her voice sounded like it was coming from a broken speaker. Mika didn't speak. She just grabbed the metal bat beside her bed and followed Rika into the hallway. Everything felt off. The lights flickered, but the shadows didn't move the way they should. The air was cold, but didn't feel like regular air. It felt heavy, like it was pressing against her skin. Rika pointed toward the stairwell at the end of the hall. No one was there, but something felt wrong. Deeply wrong. They called the police. The building was searched. Nothing, no break-in, no reports. Just silence. Later that morning, Mika told Rika about the dreams. About the déjà vu. Rika didn't laugh. She just looked at her and said, "I've been having them too." That's all she said. No jokes. No denial. Just quiet agreement. And just like that, the déjà vu stopped. But Mika was never the same. Weeks passed, then months. She moved out 6 months later. But even now, sometimes when she's driving past that old building, she feels something strange, a pull, like her body wants to stop, go back inside. Like part of her is still stuck there, walking that hallway over and over again. Sometimes, the dreams return. And when they do, they come with a strange sensation, that she's remembering things before they happen. Not just small things, like someone texting or a dog barking. Bigger things. Dangerous things. She started thinking that memory isn't what we think it is. What if the brain isn't just recalling the past but pulling pieces from other versions of our life? Like a stack of wallpaper, each layer bleeding into the next. Maybe déjà vu is the moment when two timelines rub together. And maybe, just maybe, that hallway was a weak point. A seam in reality where the edges of different lives blur and leak. Mika's been fine for years now, but every time she thinks she's moved on, she catches something. A flicker in the corner of her eye. A smell, a laugh, a sentence she knew would be spoken. And she waits. She waits for the door to open again. For Rika to stand there once more. For that voice, flat and robotic, to say, "There's someone in the building," and if it happens again, she's not sure if she'll follow this time. She's afraid that if she does, she won't come back. Because whatever's at the end of that hallway is still waiting. In the quiet town of Fairhope, Michigan, two brothers, Jason and Cale, had grown up hearing strange stories about the woods near their home. Kids at school whispered about a crumbling old house hidden deep along a forgotten trail. Most said it was just a story. But when October rolled around and boredom set in, Jason, 19, finally said, "Let's go find it." Cale, 17, agreed. It was a cool, cloudy afternoon when they packed some water and flashlights, told their mom they were going hiking, and headed out around 3 p.m. The trees were orange and red, and the forest air was fresh. It felt peaceful. Until it didn't. About 10 minutes into the trail, Cale started feeling off. Something wasn't right. It wasn't fair, more like an eerie familiarity. The trail, the way the trees bent, even the rusted fence post half buried in the ground, he had seen it all before, but he had never walked this trail in his life. He looked up ahead at Jason, who was talking about some random TV show, but Cale wasn't really listening. He stared at the path, his heart starting to race. A memory came to him, sharp and clear, a tree with a hollow trunk near the bend. He pictured it clearly. 5 minutes later, they passed it. Cale didn't say anything. He didn't want to sound crazy, but the further they walked, the worse it got. He started remembering a 2-story house, peeling green paint, a broken step, a shattered window on the second floor. He could even see dead vines crawling up the side. And then, they found it. It was 3:40 p.m. when they stepped into the clearing, and there it was. The house from Cale's memory. Exactly the same, down to the cracked door hanging slightly open. Jason grinned, excited to explore, but Cale froze. "I've seen this place before," he finally said. Jason laughed. "No way, we've never been out here." Cale didn't argue, but his stomach was in knots. He asked Jason if it felt familiar to him. Jason shrugged it off. Still, Cale followed his brother up the porch steps. The old door creaked open like something out of a movie. The smell inside was thick and stale, like mold and rot. The silence was so heavy, it almost pressed against their ears. Inside was worse. Broken furniture, torn wallpaper, a fireplace that looked like it hadn't held a flame in years. And then there was the hallway at the end. A door stood closed. Cale's heart was pounding. It all matched what he had seen in his mind. And without meaning to, he said, Jason looked at Cale, and Cale stared back, both frozen. The sound had clearly come from upstairs. Jason tried to laugh it off. "Probably a raccoon or something," he said, but his voice shook. Cale didn't answer. He was too focused. He remembered something else now. A door on the right at the top of the stairs, cracked open, and someone standing inside. Jason dared Cale to check it out. Cale immediately said, "No way." Jason suggested they play rock, paper, scissors. Cale lost, but even then, he refused to go alone. So Jason went first, step by creaking step. Cale followed but stopped at the top of the staircase. Jason walked down the hallway toward the last door on the right, the exact one Cale had seen in his head. It was open just a little, enough to see a shadow inside. Jason pushed the door open. Then he froze. Cale couldn't see what was in the room, but Jason stepped back, eyes wide, pale as snow. Then, out of nowhere, Jason screamed. He turned, grabbed Cale's arm, and shouted, "Run!" They flew down the stairs, nearly tripping over each other, and didn't stop until they were out of the house. Back on the trail, lungs burning and hearts pounding. Only after they had made it far enough did Cale ask, "What did you see?" Jason didn't speak right away. Then he said, "There was a woman. She was just standing there, facing the window. She didn't move. She looked like a statue. Her hair was shoulder length and gray blonde. I don't even know if she saw me, but she was there." Cale's hands went cold. That matched what he had seen in his dreams. The same hair, the same window, the same pose. He never told Jason that he had seen that woman before, not in real life, but in flashes, like memories he shouldn't have. Jason kept asking how Cale knew there would be a woman. Cale accused him of pulling a prank, but Jason never admitted to anything. And Cale could see in his brother's eyes, he wasn't faking it. He was truly scared. They never went back to the house. They told their mom they had just gone on a long hike. Jason never brought it up again. But Cale thought about it for weeks, months, even years. He knew it wasn't a normal déjà vu. It wasn't just a feeling, it was detailed knowledge of a house he'd never visited, of a woman who shouldn't have been there, of a moment that played out exactly how it had already lived in his mind. Cale later read about premonitions and parallel lives, theories about memories from other timelines bleeding into your own. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he had been there before, in another version of himself. And maybe he never made it out that time. Rika always loved art. As a quiet student at Lincoln High School in Vermont, she found peace in painting and sketching after class. One afternoon, she walked past an old, unused classroom on the second floor. Its door was cracked open. Inside, dust floated in the sunbeams like tiny ghosts. She had never seen anyone go in or out of that room. But that day, a woman stood inside, middle-aged, gray cardigan, shoulder-length hair. She looked up and smiled gently. "Rika, would you like to see what the class is working on?" Rika blinked. How did this woman know her name? Before she could answer, another teacher, Mr. Dawson, the history teacher, walked past and interrupted. "You okay, Rika?" he asked. She turned to him for a moment and then looked back through the door. But the woman was gone. The room was empty. Dusty desks, old chalkboard, Not a single person inside. Rika felt a chill crawl up her spine. She shook it off, figuring she was just imagining things. Stress, lack of sleep, exams. But that night she dreamed of that classroom. Only it wasn't empty. Students sat in rows, faces blurred, heads twitching strangely, as if caught in a stutter. And the same woman stood at the front, staring at Rika. Her lips didn't move, but Rika heard the voice in her head. "You're late. Sit down." She woke up sweating, heart racing. For weeks after that, she kept dreaming of the classroom. Each time, more vivid. One night, the woman was behind her, whispering in her ear, cold breath grazing her neck. Another time, she saw her own name written over and over again on the blackboard, in red chalk, until it melted into something that looked like blood. Still, Rika didn't say anything to anyone. Then one day, her school announced renovations on the top floor. Part of the old building would be demolished to make way for new labs. As the construction began, workers unearthed an old plaque behind one of the sealed doors. It read, "In memory of Ms. Ellen Brooks, art teacher, 1972, 1978, gone but never forgotten." Rika's blood turned cold. That was the woman. The same face, the same gray cardigan, the same calm voice. She raced to the school library, digging through old yearbooks and newspaper clippings. She found one article dated 1978, "Local teacher dies in fire. Lincoln High, art wing damaged." It said the fire started in the art supply closet. Students escaped. Ms. Brooks didn't. The article included a black and white photo. Rika stared at it. Same hair, same soft smile. That's when she realized the room she kept seeing in her dreams, the students. The blackboard, the red chalk. It wasn't imagination. She was remembering something that had happened before. Something that didn't belong to her life. Something that was starting to bleed into it. After discovering the photo of Ms. Brooks, Rika couldn't sleep. The fire, the plaque, the dreams, none of it made sense. Yet it all fit together too well. She told herself it was coincidence. But the next night, everything changed. She woke up at 3:11 a.m. The walls of her bedroom were flickering not with fire, but with a soft orange glow. Her room had become the classroom. The desks were there, the windows, the blackboard with her name written over and over, and the students blurry, twitching, heads tilted at impossible angles, stared at her. Ms. Brooks stood behind her, whispering, "You belong here now." Rika screamed. She kicked her legs and fell out of bed, landing on her cold bedroom floor. She was home again, but in her hand was a piece of red chalk. The next day, she begged the school office to show her anything they had left on Ms. Brooks. The secretary raised an eyebrow and said, "Sweetie, those files were lost in the fire 40 years ago." Rika walked out and noticed something terrifying. The classroom, it was gone. The entire corridor on the second floor was sealed off with caution tape. A construction worker said they'd knocked it down 2 days ago, but Rika had just seen it. She ran to the library again and found a janitor cataloging old furniture. She asked him if he remembered Ms. Brooks. The old man froze. "I was a student here when it happened. That woman was kind, until she started talking about past lives, and the same kids coming back. Said she could recognize souls from other times. Creeped everyone out." Rika's heart dropped. He leaned in. She said the fire wasn't an accident, said it was punishment, and that she'd find her students again, even if it took forever. Rika backed away slowly. What happened to the students who survived? The janitor looked pale. "Funny thing is, half of them died within a year. Car wreck, drowning, illness. One kid even fell off the school roof." Rika turned and left the building in a daze. But that night, it got worse. She heard scratching, not at the door, not at the windows, from under her bed. She dropped to her knees and lifted the blanket. Red chalk dust. Then a whisper. "You missed today's lesson." She screamed and jumped back, knocking over her lamp. The lights flickered on the wall. Something had been drawn in red. Final exam soon. Rika knew she couldn't stay in that town. She packed her things and left for college in Colorado. New state, new school, new life. But in her dorm hallway, there's a painting of a teacher. Her nameplate reads, E. Brooks, guest lecturer, 1978. And beneath the frame, fresh red chalk. Always avoided mirrors. It started when she was 5. She'd look in the mirror and sometimes, her reflection wouldn't copy her right away. A blink out of sync. A slow, unsettling smile she didn't make. Her parents said she had an overactive imagination, but by 17 it was getting worse. One night, brushing her teeth, she noticed something terrifying. Her reflection blinked after her, just once. But it was enough to make her drop the toothbrush and back away. Her mom yelled from the hallway to stop being dramatic. Kara tried to laugh it off, but the mirror didn't laugh. Over the next few weeks, she started catching her reflection doing things she hadn't done. Tilting her head when she was still, moving her lips when hers were closed. She even once saw the reflection place its hand on the mirror, when hers were down by her sides. Then the dreams came. She was in a room full of mirrors, and in every one, her reflection moved on its own. They whispered things she couldn't understand. Except for one word, return, she told her school counselor, who gently asked if Kara had a family history of mental illness. Kara stopped talking about it. But one morning, she woke up to find all her mirrors covered in black tape. Her mom swore she didn't do it. Her dad had been out of town. They all blamed each other, but the tape remained. Kara tried to forget. But that night, in the bathroom mirror, she peeled back a little piece of the tape to see herself, just to check. But what she saw wasn't her. The girl in the mirror looked exactly like Kara, but her eyes were entirely black, and her mouth moved silently before slowly curling into a wide, jagged grin. Then it mouthed, "I'm ready now." Kara screamed and slammed the door. Her mom found her curled in a ball in the hallway. But that was only the beginning. From then on, Kara avoided every mirror. She refused to look into windows at night. Even water reflections made her uneasy. But no matter how hard she tried, she'd catch glimpses of her. The other Kara, always smiling, always watching. Then something horrifying happened at school. During a theater rehearsal, Kara was on stage, practicing a solo scene. A classmate in the audience screamed. Kara turned around and saw herself standing behind her in the reflection of the stage lights. No one else saw it. Kara fainted. After that, she begged her parents to let her transfer, to move, to burn every mirror in the house. They thought she was losing her mind. She began to wonder if they were right. Until one night she found a note slipped under her door. It wasn't handwritten, it was printed. Block letters, no return address. It read, "Stop running. You promised you'd come back." And at the bottom, it was signed, Kara. Kara didn't remember writing the note. She was certain she hadn't, but the signature, it was exactly like hers. She stared at it all night, unable to sleep. By morning, the note was gone. Her mom said she hadn't touched it. Her dad didn't even believe there was a note. That day, Kara skipped school. She wandered downtown trying to clear her head, walking until her legs ached. She ended up in a forgotten part of the city. Old shops, boarded windows, faded signs. But one storefront caught her eye. A mirror shop. It didn't have a name, just a sign that read, "Reflections. Closed to the public." Yet the door was open. Compelled by something she didn't understand, Kara stepped inside. The air was thick, dusty, silent. But there were hundreds of mirrors. Tall ones, small ones, some cracked, some pristine. And in every mirror, she saw herself, but each reflection was slightly wrong. One Kara had no eyes. Another's skin was pale blue. One smiled without lips. One bled from the mouth. Another wore a wedding dress soaked in red. And then, at the far end of the shop, stood a large, golden-framed mirror. Clean. Perfect. In that mirror, Kara saw her reflection smiling kindly. It was normal, familiar, comforting, until the reflection reached out and waved. Kara didn't move. But the reflection did. It stepped forward. And as it walked to the edge of the glass, Kara stumbled back. But her body wouldn't obey. Her legs froze. She could only watch. The reflection opened its mouth and whispered, but this time she could hear the words, "Time to come back." Glass cracked like thunder. The mirror shattered in. So did her vision. Everything went black. When Kara woke up, she was in her room. Her mom was sitting beside her, teary-eyed. She said Kara had been missing for 3 days. She didn't remember anything, but her mirror was back on the wall, clean, untaped. And when Kara looked into it, the reflection smiled, perfectly in sync, like everything was normal again. But it wasn't, because that night, Kara found another note. This one was in her own handwriting. She didn't remember writing it, but it was fresh. It read, "We switched. You're safe now. Just don't look too long next time." No signature. But from that moment on, Kara's life changed. She was calmer. Her fears vanished. She looked in mirrors without fear. But sometimes when the light hit her just right, people noticed something. Her eyes would go completely black for a second. Her smile would stretch just a little too wide. And if you asked her anything about it, she'd laugh and say, "It's just your imagination." But if you looked closer, the Kara they knew, she wasn't the one standing there anymore. And somewhere, in a room full of mirrors, the real Kara is still screaming. But no one can hear her.